Welcome to What's That About podcast, investigative journalism on trending topics with an urban perspective. We also cover some topics that aren't trending if they need to be addressed. Today, we are talking about New York City, and is it still worth it to live here? Stay tuned and find out, and remember, I'm not only your host, I'm also your brother. I am Brother Nice. Hey, I think Biggie said it best when he said, spread love, it's the Brooklyn way. Shout out to Brooklyn, man. That's home. That's the crib. And since this video is about New York City, I had to rep my borough. But let me take this hat off because I just got a fresh shape up. And fellas, you know how it is when you get a fresh shape up. It's hard to wear a hat because that defeats the whole purpose of even getting a shape up. But anyway, this video is not about my fresh shape up. It's about New York City. And we're asking the question, is it still worth it to live here? So in this video, we're going to cover the pros and cons, and I'm also going to talk about 10 industries that New York City leads the country in. Now, if you ask me, is it still worth it to live here in New York City? I'm going to say absolutely yes. But in fair disclosure, I'm a little biased because I own a company that does demolition and cleanup, and New York City keeps me busy because all New York City does is demolish and build. Demolish and build. And it's crazy because you have a group of people that'll buy a building in Manhattan and nothing is wrong with the building. The building is perfectly fine, but they want their own design, so they tear that building down and bring on their own architect and build it up again. And every time this happens, thousands of jobs are created, and this happens over and over and over again. So it keeps a lot of people in New York City busy, and I'm blessed to be one of them. Now, let's talk about the pros and the cons. Now, since I'm an optimist, we're going to talk about the pros of living in New York City first. And number one on the list is the money. Yes, we're going to talk about the money first. New York City is the richest city in the world. The world. The NASDAQ, the stock market, where all the stocks get traded on Wall Street, that is here in Manhattan, New York. The Federal Reserve is also here in New York City. And for all those who don't know what the Federal Reserve is, it's a big ass bank vault with 6,200 tons of gold in it. Also, New York City has 62 billionaires that live here, and people from all over the world come here to do business. So the money is definitely here in New York City. Now, second on the list of pros of living in New York City is opportunity. There are 220,000 businesses here in New York City. So when I hear people say they can't find a job, they probably just can't find a job that they're looking for. But there's always work here in New York City. And to my hustlers, my entrepreneurs, listen to this statistic. It is 8.3 million people here in New York City. So that's 8.3 potential clients. I told you I was an optimist, but there are plenty of people here to do business with. Next on the list of pros, we have creative energy. Now, I've only been to one other city that I felt the same creative energy or something close. It wasn't exactly it, but it came close, and that was Los Angeles. LA definitely has a creative energy. That's why they have so many writers out there. But to me, New York has the most creative energy ever. And that's why it's the entertainment capital. I mean, you got so many painters, singers, dancers, graphic artists. Like, you have so many people here that create. And if you're a creator and you get around other creators, you would definitely be affected by their energy. And it will help you create also. So, creative energy, if you're looking for it, is definitely here in New York City. Next on the list of pros, we have transportation. Now, I've been to some places where if you ain't got no car, you pretty much ass out. New York City is the total opposite of that. For $2.75, you could pretty much get to anywhere you want to get to within the 5 boroughs. Now, I've heard some people say if you live in New York City, you don't need a car. I think that's a matter of preference and opinion. Because if I'm going to Manhattan during the day, yes, I'm going to hop on a train because if I drive, it's going to take a lot longer. And it's going to be hard to find parking during the day in Manhattan. But if I'm going at night, I'm definitely going to drive because there's really no traffic and it's much easier to find parking. So you don't really need a car, but like I said, it's a matter of preference. Next on the list of pros, we have culture. Now, I'm pretty sure you heard of the term that New York City is a big melting pot. And man, they didn't lie. You have so many cultures of people that are here from all over the world. Just to give you an idea, one of my neighbors is from Poland, and I have another neighbor that's from Brazil. Just to give you an idea of the spectrum. And whether you like it or not, if you live here long enough, you're going to end up learning some of their traditions from their country. I used to be in Manhattan in the mornings for work, and I used to always see these older Asian people, and they would be in a park, and they would be doing these slow movements with their hands. And I always wondered what that was. And one day I just, walked up to one of them and asked them, like, what are y'all doing? And they explained that they were doing Tai Chi. So I found out in the Asian culture, a lot of their elders, they do that exercise every morning, and they say it keeps their body limber. Next on the list of pros for all my party people, we have the nightlife. Man, I could be honest with you and tell you I've been to clubs from LA to Amsterdam, and the clubs they got in New York City are some of the best. I mean, people here in New York City, they work hard, but they party even harder. You might be in a club and see a girl throwing her bra across the club. Like, hold up, is that Jennifer from accounting? Yeah, that's her. That's how hard they party here in New York City. Now, you might be shocked to find out that New York City has 25,000 clubs. And on the weekend, all of them are packed. I don't know how they do it. I don't know where these people come from. But on the weekend, every club is packed. And you don't even have to wait for the weekend. There's something going on every night here in New York City. Every different night, you have a actor or athlete or actress that's coming to town to throw a party. So it might be a Monday or a Tuesday, and you might find a club that's still going crazy. And this is one club. I had to show you this pic because I had never seen this in a club. The picture that you're looking at right here is from the Standard Hotel. This is on the West Side Highway. They had a club with a swimming pool next to the dance floor. I've never seen anything like that. It was so crazy. Out of all the clubs I've been to, I had to just show you that one pic of this one right here. So if you end up partying and you love the nightlife, New York City is definitely the place to be. And next on the list of pros, last but certainly not least, the food. Man, if you like to eat like me, you will never run out of options here in New York City. I mean, you got Italian food, Jamaican food, Mexican food, Thai food, African food. The list goes on and on. I wouldn't be surprised if New York City is one of the fattest cities in the country because we have so many different types of food. So if you love to eat, this is definitely one of the best cities to live in. Okay, I told y'all all of the pros of living in New York City. Now we have to discuss the cons. Now, this is a very short list, but this list is a deal breaker for some people. So, number one, let me address the elephant in the room. The real estate and rent is through the roof. A one-bedroom apartment could run you anywhere from $1,400 up to $4,500. It really depends on your location and the amenities that you might want in your building. The average house in New York City starts at $780,000, and that might come without a driveway. Yes, I know it's expensive, but I did say that's one of the cons. Number two on the list of cons for living in New York City is raising children. Now, this could just be my opinion, but I feel like you will enjoy New York City so much more if you're not raising children here. Because once our children leave our sight, we really don't know what they're doing. And this city is so big and there's so much going on here. Like I said, it's 8.3 million people here. So your child could be exposed to some things faster than you want them to. Now, my son was raised here in New York City, and I can tell you, he learned some things faster than I wanted him to. But that's the city. It's so big, and there's so much going on. So I feel like that's a con for living here in New York City. Next on the list of cons, and this is a big one, parking. Y'all not going to believe the statistic I'm about to get to y'all right now. But New York City makes $565 million per year off of parking tickets. Parking is big business. Now, I'm blessed. Where I live at in Brooklyn, it's not that hard for me to find parking for me. But I got some friends, man. They live in certain apartment buildings. They tell me when they come home from work, they ride around almost an hour just to find a parking spot. So yeah, parking is definitely a con. Now, this next con on the list, I do my best to avoid just for my own peace of mind. And that's people with funky and aggressive attitudes. Yeah, you're going to get a lot of that in New York. Now, this is just a theory. It's just my theory. It hasn't been proven. But since there are 8.3 million people here in the city, I feel like because people are like stacked up on each other, or they don't have enough space, they have an attitude just because of that. And then I feel like some people have an attitude because they feel like they have to be tough so nobody will take advantage of them. So some of them are just aggressive for no reason. And it's just not young people. You might have an old lady cut you off in traffic and give you the finger, and you'd be like, wow. But yeah, funky and aggressive attitudes, that's just kind of part of New York City, and you just have to learn and navigate around that if you live here. So yeah, I'm gonna call that a con also. This last con on the list is a big one for me. Cold weather. Because I hate being cold. And it gets so cold in New York City, we have our own terminology just to explain how cold it is. We say things like it's brick ass, or it's bleeding, or it's biting. These are terms that we came up with just to describe how cold it gets in New York City. Now, that might just be me, because I hear some women who say they like the winter and the snow because they get a chance to wear their leather boots and their fur coats. Not me. I want to wear t-shirts all year long. Matter of fact, when I retire, I'm only living in New York City for the spring, summer, and fall, and I'm spending all my winters in Florida. But anyway, that's my list for the cons of living in New York City. Stay tuned so I can tell you about 10 industries that are led by New York City. And if you work in one of these 10 industries, you might consider relocating to New York City so you can be paid the most for your profession. Here are 10 industries that New York City leads the nation in: law, technology, real estate, insurance, entertainment, fashion, construction, food service, business, and media. If you work in any one of these industries here, you might want to do some research and due diligence to find out if it would be worth it for you to relocate to New York City and be paid the most for your profession. I want to say thank you for watching this video. Please make sure you like, subscribe, share, and comment. And if you ever moved to New York City, make sure you holler at me. I want to leave you with the words of peace, love, and progress. And remember, I'm not only your host, I'm also your brother. I am Brother Nice.